Hey future RTs. In our program, we are starting to deal with airway care and mechanical ventilation. So I want to step back with today's HQ challenge and talk about manual resuscitation. So while performing bag valve mask ventilation, okay, so we have an ambu bag and a mask that we've got on the patient's face, the RT notices that it has suddenly become more difficult to compress the manual resuscitator. So suddenly, so you're bagging along and everything's good, and then all of a sudden it gets harder to squeeze the bag, okay? When that happens, you need to think of two things. Assuming your bag is working correct and you're bagging with a mask, it is either the airway or the alveoli. So right there, that leaves us with one or the other, okay? It's not the inspiratory time. You control that with how fast you're squeezing the bag. It's not the input flow, because that's the flow on the flow meter, which only changes the FiO2, all right? So what can happen here is that the airway can get smaller, okay? And if the airway gets smaller, it's gonna be harder to bag. But that's an increase in airway resistance, and we've specifically asked for a decrease. Or the alveoli, pulmonary compliance, the alveoli has for some reason gotten stiffer or maybe collapsed, like a pneumothorax. And all of a sudden, it's harder to squeeze air against all that collapsed alveoli from a pneumothorax, okay? So pulmonary compliance is the correct thing here. So anytime you are bagging and it gets harder to squeeze, you need to think of one of two things: airway resistance or alveolar compliance. Listen to breath sounds. If they're wheezing, it's probably a bronchospasm. It's an airway problem. If you have diminished or absent breath sounds unilaterally, it's probably a pneumothorax. Hope this has helped. See you soon.